You're listening to episode 3 of the Citizen Coder podcast. In this episode, I talk to Antonio Riccelli, a full stack developer living in the UK. We talk about programming, death metal, getting his first dev job, tinfoil hats, and so much more. Let's dive in. How long have you been in the UK now?
For about 7 years now. Moved here in 2015, 1 week after graduation from university. I've worked in a variety of different jobs. I basically didn't really have a career. I worked some different retail jobs, which were pretty horrible, to be honest. Started feeling kind of dissatisfied with what I was doing, getting screamed at by customers and things like that. So I started kind of looking around for a potential career which I could actually be interested in and could give me some sense of fulfillment and a decent living. I took I think it was a personality test online, like 16 personalities, something like that,
Okay.
and I can't remember exactly what came out, but after I got the result, there was another section which kind of told you what kind of professions could be suitable for you, and one of them was computer programmer, um, which had never struck me as something that I could do, as I didn't have a really technical background. But I
Sure.
thought, let's give it a shot. Let's just look. I mean, I'm depressed anyway. What else could I? Can't get any worse than this.
Yeah.
So I started that, and by kind of just looking around online, I found Free Code Camp. So this
Okay.
is 2018. And I started
Oh,
a couple
okay.
of lessons, the responsive web design curriculum, which is kind of what you begin with, a few HTML lessons, CSS. And obviously, I think
Sure.
like a lot of other people, it was pretty exciting. I thought, geez, I can just type something on screen and stuff changes in the browser. I can make things appear,
Yeah.
things like that. And so I started doing some of those exercises that they had, but I didn't take it very seriously. I thought, okay, this is cool, but I can't be one of those people. And so I kind of dropped it for a while.
Okay.
I
I know that feeling.
Yeah, you probably yeah, I think lots of people know that feeling. And yeah, I couldn't really drop it completely. I kind of kept coming back to it.
Hmm.
And I had quite a few false starts initially. First, I started with this platform called Udacity,
Okay.
which in retrospective I wouldn't recommend because it's paid. It's not free.
Oh,
And
yeah.
what you pay is not the content doesn't justify the price that you pay. It's stuff that you can
Right.
find very easily for free on on YouTube, or like 10 quid on Udemy.
Sure.
But I took kind of some of these certifications that they offered, and it did kind of give me a start with with stuff like JavaScript and even SQL. But again, I didn't do much after that because they don't really give you enough that you can like apply for a job, at least from my perspective. Um,
Yeah.
so I dropped again. I dropped out again of the dream of becoming a programmer, and I kept on working. My career was improving, but I still wasn't really happy with what I was doing. Now I was working at an office job, and I started doing some basic programming in Microsoft Excel because that was the most advanced tool that the company used. And Excel does have kind of a simple programming language inside of it. You can write macros, and there's functions, and you can combine them together. And it's basically like using
Yeah.
JavaScript methods. It's very similar in a
Right.
way.
I've actually seen a lot of that, a lot of the Excel stuff, and it can get quite complicated.
It does, yeah, yeah, it does. And the language that it uses, I can't quite remember the name, but the syntax is pretty horrendous. So
It's pretty
it's
bad.
it's
It's
pretty
pretty
bad.
bad.
It is pretty bad. But it kind of got me back to thinking, wait, I'm doing this on the job. I really like it. Maybe I can actually consider going back to that stuff that I was originally looking into, and maybe it can be something that I'm able to do. And so I got back to Free Code Camp, this time seriously. I completed the responsive web design certification. And obviously, by the end of that, you have a couple of projects, however basic, that you can add to a like starting portfolio. And then I started doing the JavaScript curriculum, and that got me started on writing like very basic sort of algorithms. Started practicing as well on websites like Code Wars, which kind of got me a bit better with the with the general syntax. And then I found this bootcamp online. It's UK based. It's called schoolofcode.com. At that time, I knew that boot camps are normally very expensive. There's people that take out loans to attend them. It's like 10
Sure.
grand, 15 grand. I thought, wait a second, I can't really afford this, and I don't want to get into debt for life.
Yeah,
But
they get really pricey, and
they get
it's
they
the
get
same
really
way here.
pricey. It's really, really pricey. I think like 10 grand. That's on the lower scale. Like I've seen boot camps for like 20 grand, 25, just completely bonkers.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
completely bonkers.
Yeah, but then looking at the website for School of Code, I realized that it was free. Yeah, it's completely, they pay for everything. You don't have to pay a penny. And to this day, I haven't paid a penny, so there's nothing like hidden in the, terms and conditions or anything like that. Um, and so I applied. I thought, nothing is going to come out of this. But then a couple of weeks later, I got an email saying that I was invited to the first stage of the application process. And in the end, there were, I think it were four stages. Like some stuff you had to like record the video of yourself answering some certain questions that they send you, and then the
Right.
final stage was actually an interview with one of the coaches from the school. This was back in last summer, I think it was September last year. Um, and long story short, I got accepted. It was a 4-month boot camp, basically starting from the essentials of HTML and CSS up to modern like libraries like React, database languages like PostgreSQL, Docker, studying the
Hmm.
agile methodology. It basically kind of took you from the ABC to being a junior developer that can actually apply for jobs and seek your first employment in the industry.
Yeah. So,
Um,
is it one of those where they actually try to help you get a job, or is it just strictly the training?
they do try to help you get a job. Yeah, they have a full list of partners that they that have open positions that you can apply for. You do it all internally via the School of Code platform, and a lot of people did get jobs via the school, so that was really good. Some of them even like I think it was 1 or 2 weeks after finishing the boot camp. So for some of them it was really quick. Obviously, it doesn't happen the same way for everybody.
Sure.
Myself personally, I didn't get it through School of Code, but uh, it wasn't anything bad wrong to do with the school. They were actually working really hard, and a lot of people did get a job. Obviously, you might end up being
Yeah.
a bit more unlucky than other people. So I started applying outside of the school,
Okay.
and I basically approached the job searching process like a full-time job. So I would wake up, early in the morning, had my schedule. I made a list of all the possible, job platforms that I could find, and I would look for them. I would search them every single day. So I would be one of the first people to apply for any new jobs that were being posted. I was constantly updating my CV. This on a daily basis for well over a month. Uh, and I started getting some calls, basically some call for interviews. I did quite a few. I think altogether was I don't know if it was 10 or 15 in total. I know there's people that do like hundreds, but I guess I was lucky.
I
I just did
mean,
it at
10
the
to
right
15
time.
is pretty good.
That's
I would
pretty good.
think.
Yeah, I know
Yeah.
people that say like I think I read on LinkedIn people that have done over 200 and they just can't. Sometimes they don't get called or they don't get
Yeah.
past the first stage. Although it sounds a bit strange to me. I don't know if maybe there's something there where they need to check how they're doing things,
Sure.
but yeah, for me it was about 10, 15, and one of them, in a couple of them, I managed to progress to further stages, and one of them resulted in an offer. It's a startup, and it's the one that I'm currently looking for. Been currently here for 2.5 months, almost 3 months, and
Oh, okay.
it's going very well. Obviously, there's a lot to learn. It's a startup, so as a junior, it can be a bit traumatizing at first. You don't have that kind of infrastructure that a big company can offer you.
Yeah, yeah.
But you
I
get
mean,
to
but
wear a
you're
lot of different hats.
right, and I mean, when it boils down to it, you're there for the money, you know?
yeah, money and experience,
and experience,
and
right?
and you get both.
Yeah.
So can't complain at all. Uh,
Startup.
yeah.
So, oh, go ahead.
No, yeah, go ahead.
Oh,
That
I
was the
was.
story so far.
No, I was just gonna ask you. So you're working for a startup. Um, what can you talk a little bit about what they're making or anything along those lines?
Yeah, I could tell you it's in pharmaceuticals as a broader field, which is the field that I had been working on for the last 3 or 4 years anyway, obviously in different roles.
Sure.
So that was a good thing because I could bring with me that sort of domain specific knowledge that always helps.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We work in the field of brain scanning, so
Okay.
like things like multiple sclerosis. My job specifically is right now, at least, is to kind of build an internal platform that my other colleagues can use, to
Oh.
basically
Okay.
automate some of the jobs that they're currently doing, which is extremely manual.
Yeah.
They have to call, different platforms separately and manually via certain scripts that they have to run. Whereas what I'm working on is basically allowing them to perform a set of operations by basically just at the click of a button, which will expedite the daily tasks immensely.
Right.
Um, yeah, I would say that's pretty much what I'm doing in a nutshell. Although obviously there's a lot more that goes into that. I'm also covering some kind of QA aspect in a way. There's some looking into some QA aspect of what I'm doing, and ensuring that we are compliant with certain industry standards and things like that. So I'm also contributing to that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, basically it's like building the whole platform from scratch. Front end, back end, making sure that it's integrated with the cloud services that we work on. It's a lot of work, but it's really I've learned a lot of things in just 3 months. Like I couldn't really recognize myself from 3 months ago, so it's definitely worth the challenge.
Yeah. On the job training, definitely pushes you a lot further. I think than just kind of studying on your own.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think on one side it's the stress of being on the real job just makes things easier to remember. It
Right.
makes your things that you're learning really stick.
Yeah.
Whereas sometimes you're studying and yeah, you learned something today, but you kind of forgot about it a week later.
Right.
This doesn't happen. Like maybe I have to take obviously notes about certain things, like some minor details, but normally when a trying to fight a bug that you've been struggling with, a week, uh, the lessons that you learn will stick with you, even if you don't touch that thing for a couple of months. Let's put
Yeah.
it that way.
Yeah. That makes
Um,
sense.
and it just really the variety of activities that you cover throughout a whole day just really makes it, it just dials up your brain, in a state where you're just absorbing things much more easily and much more effectively. It just exposes you to a lot of different things that you just wouldn't get exposed to if you were working on your tiny project, in your own time with no pressure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a completely different environment. Yeah, it's much better. Can't compare.
What sort of technologies are you working with on a regular basis now?
It's mostly MERN stack, so MERN stack and AWS. So it's mainly React on the front end. On the back end, it's mostly it's your standard Node.js with Express as a framework. And But obviously I have to work very closely with AWS services, so there's a lot of integration that goes um, into those services. So it's basically I have to make sure that the front end communicates with the back end communicates with the cloud services, and it's all flowing very very smoothly and very very nicely. I had to start learning more aspects of AWS that I wasn't that familiar with.
Yeah.
I basically before getting the job, I had obtained my first AWS certification, which is called Cloud Practitioner,
Okay. Yeah.
which doesn't really feature a lot of practice. It's mostly theory. You're just really learning what the main services are, what they do, and what some of the main features are, and that's pretty much it. It's a certification that's normally not really for developers. It's normally obtained by a lot of salespeople, marketing people of an organization. But I thought it would be a good start anyway because it would familiarize me with what AWS was about.
Yeah.
But on the job, I had to start learning practically what the services do and how I interact with them, how I make API calls. Just
Hmm.
today, actually, before getting off work, I was writing some YAML template for AWS Cloud Formation, which is a service where basically you write this configuration template in your YAML file, and through the code you can basically tell AWS what services it has to create and deploy for you, but you don't have to do it manually. You just write a few lines of code, you just push that to your GitHub. Your GitHub, it's integrated with AWS, and then it does it all for you. You don't have to do all the settings manually, and it's pretty amazing. It's called the infrastructure as code. Um, and yeah, that's my main stack. I've begun studying Docker and Kubernetes as well because we're already using Docker. We will be using Kubernetes very soon. So although we have a DevOps engineer, I want to make sure that I can kind of cover my bits so that he can focus more on the value added stuff. Because again, this is a startup. It's only a few people, so we get to wear a lot of different hats, and I'm very happy to do that.
How old is this startup, if you don't mind, or if that's
It's
something
uh,
you
it's
can?
about a couple of years old, 2 or 3 years old, so it's still in its infancy, but it's been growing, steadily
Sure.
since they started. So there's really the future looks very bright, and that's why they brought a full-time developer in because it's time to start, building those platforms that will
Yeah.
simplify things for colleagues to build those interfaces that we're going to use on a daily basis.
How many developers do they have?
Well, full-time developer, that's really just me. We have a
Oh,
DevOps, and obviously, DevOps, he covers both some operation side of things, some developing side of things, but I think he mostly covers Python, really.
okay.
As a JavaScript developer, that's me. So
Oh,
what
okay.
what a bit of responsibility, as a for a
Yeah,
junior developer.
for sure.
But it's working really well. I think it's going really well. Making progress on a daily basis. It's baby steps. You take it one day at a time. You set up your tasks, you make your plan for the day ahead, and you just make sure that you tackle some things every day. And then
Hmm.
before you realize, 1 week later, you have there's a fully functioning front end and a back end already working, and you just keep building, one brick on
Right.
top of the one that you've already laid. So
Yeah, one brick at a
pretty
time.
cool. Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Can you tell me a little bit about your uh, kind of? Okay, so you said you'd applied for a bunch of places.
Yeah.
Um, Kind of tell me a little bit about what happened when you applied for this place and what
Yeah,
happened.
it was honestly kind of a standard process. So obviously I applied for the job, and I think that on the same day, or maybe it was a couple of days later, I just got an email from one of the company founders, and just invited me for a first stage interview, which was really just myself, getting in doing an introduction, just introducing myself, and just really asking me a couple of questions, what I was really looking for. Because, a startup environment is pretty different from a big corporate, organization where, you join the company in a big corporate one, and there's a whole infrastructure to support you. There's, SOPs, even if you have to go to the toilet, there's an SOPs that you have to follow sometimes. Like, it's that strict. There's a lot of red tape.
Sure. Yeah.
I'm not joking. There's
Oh, I
organizations that
know.
will set
I've
strict rules on how you do
I've
that.
I worked in pharmaceuticals also, and so yeah, I definitely there were definitely strict protocols around even stuff like that. Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. And it kind of proceeded from there. We had this first talk, and it went well, I guess, because they invited me for a second one with another colleague. That one also went well. And again, that was also really just a conversation to kind of get to know me, what kind of person I was, working with, because like I'm sure we've all had some horrible colleagues at times, and when you have to work closely with that kind of people, it makes the experience really miserable. So
Sure.
I
Yeah.
fully
Yeah.
appreciate when people want to, really get a sense of, get a feel for who you are and where it
Hmm.
makes sense to go take you to the next stage. But yeah, I got to the next stage. It was the third stage and final one, and that was sort of a live coding interview where I had to basically just code. It wasn't that difficult. It was really having a basic functioning front end and back end with authentication and just making a request, to the back end and do some testing. Um, when I did go through the interview, obviously everything that could have gone wrong went wrong. Like Murphy's law. Nothing was working. The front end wasn't talking to the back end, and vice versa. All the
Nice.
things that I could do, with my eyes closed, I couldn't do anymore. All of a sudden,
Right. Right.
I didn't even get to the testing part. It was I thought I botched it. I thought, okay, that's it. There goes the opportunity. That I'm not
Yeah.
getting this. But I think it was a week later, or maybe less than that. I then got another email with an offer. Um,
Wow.
and I thought, okay,
Yeah,
I'm not
like,
even, I'm not asking any questions here. I'm just gonna say yes.
did he mistake my coding for someone else's?
I don't know. Yeah, maybe I don't know. Amnesia, short-term memory loss, whatever. But I thought, yeah, I'm not gonna question anything here. I'm just gonna say yes, and I'm gonna sign the contract,
Sure.
which is pretty much what I did. And the offer was really good. Honestly, it's completely remote, so we don't even have an
Oh.
office.
Oh, that's awesome.
Um, uh, Obviously, the startup is linked to a university, so it's made by university researchers and scientists. So there is a location, but there's no office, and we're not meant to go anywhere
Right.
like once a week. Obviously, we do meet every once in a while, but it's like every quarter or something like that.
Okay. So
Um,
they're based in the UK then?
yeah, 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 in the London area.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, it's not far from where I live. I just really hop on a train like 30 minutes, and I'm in the city.
Do you think they would complain if you moved out of the country?
I don't think complain because we have one person that works from Europe, so not in the UK.
Oh, okay.
So no, I think there will be a couple of things from an HR perspective that will need
Some tweaking.
updating, so to
Right.
speak. But I don't think it would be a problem. But anyways, at this stage, I'm not really looking to move for out of the UK. Especially at this
Right.
point in history, let's say, with
Yeah.
a lot of crisis going around, the Ukraine war, and yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And
definitely not back to Italy.
soon to be fuel crisis from the sounds of it.
Fuel crisis, energy crisis. Honestly, man,
Energy.
it's
Yeah.
it's a very exciting time. If you want to put it
Yeah.
under a positive light.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting. Keeping
Yeah,
an eye on it. I get daily semi daily updates from my friend in Manchester, and
right. Yeah.
it's always loads of fun. We talk about your newly minted prime minister and
Oh God. Oh God.
prior prime ministers.
Oh God. Yeah, and the one that's just been appointed, that looks like it's gonna be even better.
Yeah, sounds like it.
God. Yeah. Don't remind me
Oh.
about that.
Oh, that's funny. So, how did you wind up um in the UK from
Um,
Italy, right? You're from Italy originally?
Yes, yes, I'm from Naples, South Italy. Yeah, I basically just knew some people. I had some connections in the UK, in the same town that I'm living in. I've moved here 7 years ago. I haven't really moved anywhere else since. And they were
How
just
Sorry,
yeah.
how
Sorry,
old are
go ahead.
you? How old are you?
I'm 31 now, venerable
Oh,
age of 31.
okay. All right, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so yeah, when I moved here, I think I was 24 or 25, something like that. And yeah, I just knew some people here in Guildford that were willing to host me for a few months to kind of help me get settled until I could sort of find my way. So I moved here basically 1 week after I graduated. I was literally that set on leaving the country that I didn't even wait for, like take a, I don't know, sabbatical or anything like that.
Sure. So,
Graduated, yeah, 1 week I was here. Yeah.
what made you decide to leave?
Oh well, that's a long story. So I come from the outskirts of Naples. It's a
Okay.
very tiny, you can call
Yeah.
it village. I wouldn't even call it village. It's a road in the middle of nowhere with some houses around it.
Ah, okay.
So I grew up there. I was born there. I grew up there. Unfortunately, very secluded place.
Yeah.
And basically, ever since I was, I think, 14, I wanted to leave, and I was
Mm,
literally just living every day with that goal in mind, just waiting for the right time for that to happen. So again, it's a very secluded place, absolutely no job opportunities
mhm,
whatsoever,
right.
very, very narrow-minded. So yeah, I was that set on that since I was 14.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
yeah, I was also a metalhead, so as you can imagine, growing up a metalhead in a tiny village like that, you get some funny experiences.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. Uh,
yeah.
I, I grew up in the burbs of, Baltimore, and,
Oh, okay, Baltimore.
so it was pretty much I mean, I played in and out of rock bands, um,
Yep,
for
me
most
too.
of my okay, for most of my younger years, heavy metal, hard
Yep.
rock. So yeah, I definitely kind of, understand a little bit about that. Um, although in that area, it wasn't such a, I mean, people look at you funny when you're wearing spandex, but other than that,
That was the era, spandex. Okay,
yeah, that was the era of spandex, the
nice.
80s.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, yeah. Cool.
80s into 90s with the
Yeah, I think
grunge
early 90s, very early
grunge rock.
90s, they were still a thing. I remember like the thrash
Yeah,
metal bands still wearing them.
and then it just kind of moved under the shorts. So then you had bands like
Right.
Pearl Jam that wore spandex but under their baggy shorts. Uh,
Of course, of course. The first it was grunge, then it was new metal, and yeah, that's the whole evolution there.
yeah, yeah. So what's your favorite band, or do you have one?
Favorite metal band?
Yeah, whichever, whatever.
Favorite metal band, they would be Halloween. They're like one of my bands from
Hal-
my childhood that I've kind of grown up with. Um,
Halloween. I don't know that
Halloween,
I've.
yeah. There's two bands. One is Halloween with an A, H-A, and then there's Halloween with H-E.
Oh, weird.
Halloween, which with H-E, which is the one I'm referring to. They're a power
Okay.
metal band from Germany.
Oh, nice.
They've been around, since the 80s. Their first EP is from 1985. They're still active now. Yeah, it's that those they're my favorite band. I kind of got obsessed with them since I was a kid.
Uh
Um, Still obsessed with them nowadays. But
huh. Nice.
yeah, I mean, then I started with power, classic metal. Your Judas Priest, Maiden, Metallica, the thrash metal, and then I
Right.
kind of moved into the more extreme side of things. I started with, okay, there's death metal and there's black metal, grindcore, all
Hmm,
that sort of
hmm.
stuff. So yeah, I still love all of that. I mean, I'm still listening to it daily. Yeah.
How about Man of War?
Oh yeah. Oh, definitely, definitely. I was listening just while I was working today. It's a band. It's not Manowar, but it's kind of on
Uh-huh.
the same epic metal style. It's American. It's called Virgin Steel. I don't know if you ever heard of them.
Yeah, actually, I think I have, which I'm surprised. I think I
Ah,
ran into them by accident on
I
YouTube.
love them. I love them. It's kind of epic metal, like you said, like
Yeah,
Manowar style. I
yeah,
absolutely
yeah.
love them.
I like that kind of stuff. It's
Oh yeah,
it's fun. I mean, I like all kinds of music, but
sure, sure, sure.
yeah, that's fun stuff.
Yeah,
And I usually listen to that kind of stuff when I'm getting ready to podcast or do something.
gives you the right
Get a
sort
nice
of.
pump up
Yeah,
before
yeah, yeah. Starting on the right foot.
before I talk to strangers.
Yeah, yeah, from the other side of the world.
Yeah. Oh, that's funny. Speaking of Italy, I actually tomorrow am talking to a lady named Costanza on Twitter. She's actually in Italy.
Okay, okay.
I think she's in Italy. Pretty sure that's where she's at. I know she's in some mountainous area that requires a 5G tower for internet.
Right,
Does, it-
okay. Is that one of
does that
the
does that
Huawei
sound?
ones?
Yes,
Ah,
yes, exactly. She sent me a picture of the tower.
Jeez, I hope she's okay.
And I guess her dad lives right under it or something.
God, I don't know how healthy that is for
I
you,
think is what
but
she said.
hopefully she's okay. She'll be
Yeah,
fine.
those towers are short. I thought they would be taller.
Okay, fair
Like,
enough. I don't think I've actually seen one.
yeah, I thought. I mean, just because we have cell towers here,
Yeah, yeah,
and
sure.
I've seen them and been under them, but I didn't think that that they were as short as they are. Maybe those are just the Huawei ones, but I don't know. In the picture, the tower doesn't look much taller than maybe, I don't know, that might be 3 or 4 stories.
Doesn't
But
look as
again,
menacing probably as it is.
yeah, no, no, it doesn't. So is 5G like? I mean, I've heard rumors and stuff, but is there any kind of
Sure.
like, is there any kind of actual science behind it being
Well,
not so great?
it's kind of like I don't want I don't want to go into sound like Alex Jones on a podcast
Oh,
now.
come on, you know you do.
We all do. We all do. Come on.
We all have a
But
little Alex in us.
God, I was just following what's happening with him and Sandy Hook stuff. But okay,
Oh
let's
yeah,
not get into
yeah,
that.
yeah,
Let's
yeah.
not get into that.
It's funny
Um,
stuff.
well, there is. I mean, there's nothing official that would prove that there's some correlation to it. But it's like the last 2 or 3 years, I'm not even sure what I'm supposed to believe anymore because you always need to check. Okay, there's a study that says there's no correlation, but who funded the study?
Right.
What's behind it? There's a lot of. It's not really just science in the romantic way as we used to think of it. There's
Mm-hmm.
science with
Yeah.
finance and a lot of other things tied to it.
Right. You got to follow the
Um,
trail of money before you can decide whether you want to believe it or not.
exactly, and I'm not saying necessarily that there must be something rotten behind it. Maybe it's completely fine. We're gonna live
Yeah, sure.
happily ever after. I
But
certainly hope so.
yeah, but companies fund studies to get a
Absolutely,
result. You know what I mean? They need a result,
absolutely.
so
I mean,
they fund it to get a result.
oh yeah. I mean, there's been countless scandals that are documented. This is real stuff. It's not basement dweller conspiracy. It's
Yeah.
there. It's in the archives. It's been on the newspaper. So that kind of stuff sadly does happen. So it is something you have to take into consideration. Definitely.
Yeah, definitely. So I don't, like I said, I don't know a whole lot about the 5G. I just heard, and what I've heard here in the U.S. is probably more tinfoil hat stuff than anything. But
Right.
um, any time stuff comes out that doesn't have a lot of, like they know they got it working. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then they just
Yeah.
throw it out as a product, but it's not tested.
Exactly. Yeah.
Not
You
to
don't know if
the.
there's side effects. What's gonna
Yeah,
happen in 10 years from now when you use it constantly.
exactly. And
Yeah.
then we're bombarded by radiation and stuff all day long, by the sun. So it's really hard to say like how much of that, or if whether or not 5G is worse. I mean, we put radiation devices up to our heads every day with cell phones. I mean, they're
Sure.
all
Sure. And
giving
we're
off
still
some
here
sort of. Yeah, yeah.
for
So
now.
right, right. So I don't know. I just kind of, I try to keep an open mind and I try to read, but it is hard to like,
Absolutely. Yeah.
you got to read all the studies now too, because you can't trust what
It's a
the.
full-time job. It's become a full-time job, even if you just want to reach a conclusion on any given topic at this
Yeah,
stage.
yeah. You pretty
But
much have to do your own digging and read white papers and.
yeah, yeah, it's like you don't have enough to do, so
You got to be a scientist to live in this world.
you gotta, yeah, yeah. It's a very science-oriented world now. Definitely, I think that. I mean, given what's happened in the last few years, I think that being able to keep an open mind, it's already an achievement in itself. Because again, I don't want to get social,
Hmm.
political commentator, but
Sure.
I think it's pretty obvious that society is becoming extremely polarized,
Oh
and
yeah.
everywhere you look, there's people that are trying to make you polarized. It's
Yeah.
like every opinion is expressed in a way so it's so sharp and so aggressive that it kind of you feel like it's not giving you an option. Like you're supposed to just, it's with us or against us on every possible
Hmm.
social topic, and
Yeah.
it's really unpleasant.
Yeah. It really has. And it's funny because, excuse me, Americans look at it as if all of this is just happening in America.
Sure, sure.
We most Americans just view it as, like our president, whichever one it happens to be at the time, is causing all the crazy shit all over the world.
Sure.
But there's shit literally happening all over the world in every country
Oh
that,
god, yeah.
and it's the same. It's
It is, it is.
like you said, it's polarizing there, it's polarizing here, uh it's everywhere. It's not just here.
Absolutely, absolutely. Obviously, with each country and each culture gives it a slightly different color because you bring all your background into it. But the core, yeah, the gist of it, it's pretty much the same everywhere. It's a strange time to live in.
Yeah, it really is. Um, it definitely is. Let's see. I had another question for you. Um, so you've been doing 100 days of code.
Yeah,
It
currently in my
looks,
fourth run.
yeah, 403 days. When did you start your first run?
I guess 403 days ago. No, but seriously, yeah, on
Do
a
you know the
serious note,
date? Do you know the
maybe
exact
no.
date?
The date. No, don't ask me that, mate. I have no clue. But it was actually a little bit um, further back than 403 days ago because between my third and my fourth round, I took not really a break because I was working, full time, so I kept on coding, but I wasn't really um, recording that, for the public consumption, so to
Hmm.
speak. So it was a little bit over a year ago. I think it was early 2021, maybe. I remember this is when it kind of started. Um, yeah, early 2021. I think that was
2021.
the starting. Yeah, that was the starting point.
Did you miss very many days in between? Like
Not
during?
really.
Yeah,
No, not really. I think I managed to turn it into a kind of lifestyle. Really, like it's just part of my day. I think I
sure.
missed maybe I don't know, maybe a week overall in total. In a few
Yeah,
days
over
here
the
and there,
course of
but a total of like a week or so. But I think
mhm.
I was sick once, and once I was just like traveling between Italy and UK. So you're kind of smashed, when you've done the whole journey in between countries.
Right.
Um, yeah, that was pretty much it. Just think about a week. Yeah, it's been pretty consistent.
Yeah, I've done a couple of rounds of it, and then I've also done a couple of half rounds.
Right. I think I know what you mean. Yeah.
I get busy, and then I keep coding, and then I forget to post, and then
Yeah,
eventually
sure. Life happens. Life
yeah,
happens.
I quit posting. I'm actually probably gonna start another round here soon. I just started working on. I don't know if you're familiar with Laracast.
Laracast, is it for PHP?
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, yes. Never actually coded in PHP, but obviously I've heard about PHP.
Okay. Yeah, I
Yeah.
actually just started going through those videos, and then I ordered a really good looking PHP book on Amazon. Let me pull it up here real quick.
Yeah, sure.
Um, let's see here. This is always fun. Um, if I can find it. Oh, here it is. It's supposed to be here today.
But it
I'm
isn't.
I'm excited. Yeah, it should be here before 2:15 p.m.
Okay, so not much left.
Supposedly, it says out for delivery. It's called PHP and MySQL, server side web
Okay.
development. It's
Okay, so
by
it's backend focused.
Yeah. Well, it's
Sure.
yeah, basically. So I don't know if you're familiar with PHP and Ruby or Ruby on Rails.
Again, never coded in them, but I've heard about them. Yeah, PHP apparently has been dead since it was born. That's what I
Right.
kind of read on the
Right.
internet. But
PHP's been dead. Yep.
yeah, it's
Uh,
kind of everybody keeps repeating, but actually everybody uses it. So
yeah. Well, the funny thing is the first interview I did on this podcast was with Eric Van Johnson. I'd call him a big name in the PHP world. But I don't, I only know what I can go off of.
sure, sure,
He's got a fairly large podcast. They've done 400, no, 301 episodes, I think,
right.
and it's all about PHP. But he told me that somewhere, I think it was between maybe 4 and 5. PHP did sort of, it didn't die, but it just wasn't really being developed well.
Okay,
And when Facebook was actually using it a bunch, and they wound up I don't know if they forked it and started building their own PHP um, at one point, and that's when they were like, "Oh shit, we need to kind of get our crap together and start and start fixing the language." He did
Okay,
say
interesting.
that WordPress kept it alive for a long time, but then now PHP's up to like version 8.1, and it's obviously nothing. It's completely different than it was back then.
How long has it been around?
It's been around 25 years,
Okay, so
I
it's
think.
like just as old as like JavaScript is, like pretty much, I guess.
Yeah, it's almost as old
Or
as me. No, I'm kidding.
right.
Created created in 1994.
Okay, cool. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So yeah, it's pretty old. Or it's an older language. Yeah, when did JavaScript come around? Was that
1995.
95?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, just 1 year later.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, it for the most part, it kind of does. I guess it doesn't necessarily do exactly what JavaScript does because it doesn't do a lot of the functionality,
Right.
like buttons and shit. But it does, like, you can embed it in HTML and and get
Sure.
stuff done. So
Interesting. Interesting.
so anyway, so this book is written by a guy named John Duckett, and apparently his books are super popular.
Okay. Yeah. They
He's
got
got a
credentials.
Yeah, he's got a JavaScript and jQuery book and HTML and CSS book. He's got a couple other books, but yeah, they're just super. I guess they're super popular. This book is currently it just released, but it was like on sale, so I couldn't resist.
All right, I know the feeling. Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
I don't buy a whole lot of paper books, so this is kind of a treat.
Like
Um,
just in general, or programming, like paper
just
books.
just in general,
Yeah.
if I do, it's because I bought them. Oops, I wanted to post the link for you. Let me see. I've got this. There we go. There's a little chat window here in
Oh yeah,
um,
yeah, I can see it. It's on sidebar.
Zencaster. There you go.
Ah, there
But
it
yeah,
is. Okay.
so it looks like a really, really good book.
Right.
Still,
Yeah, yeah.
still got like 5-star reviews across the board. Um, so I'm guessing it's pretty good.
Yeah, yeah, sounds like a good investment, definitely.
Yeah. So I'm gonna do that, and I'm gonna finish going through the Laracast, Laravel videos, and try to build some projects out of it. Um, oh
You
yeah,
got
so
already something on GitHub with PHP, or still like in
uh,
development?
no, I haven't posted anything with PHP yet. Most of my stuff's still hosted local. I've got a lot of random crap on GitHub. I really need to. Do you ever go through and just delete projects, like old
I've I should
stuff, or?
probably do it, because now I look at my older projects and I'm embarrassed. I thought, how did I think I could publish this and get a job?
Oh yeah,
Uh,
so
it
that
worked.
that's actually one thing I wanted to ask you about. I think when
Yeah.
we talked, you mentioned that you didn't do a coding test, or you did. I thought you said you did, but I don't. Maybe I
Well,
missed something.
for my current role.
Oh, but your first role. So this isn't your first. This is
So
your
no, you
second.
mean, sorry? What was the question? I didn't do a coding test for my current role, or what else?
Uh, for your first role. Maybe.
So
Um,
this is my first role.
okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah,
Maybe I
I
missed
did a
something.
live coding test. Yeah,
Oh, okay, okay.
it wasn't the kind of, like lead code sort of coding test. Thank God.
Okay.
It was
Maybe it was a project. So you didn't have a lot of projects on.
That is true. Yeah, I didn't
Maybe
have a
that's what it
lot of
was.
projects. Like I've seen, people looking for, first developer role, and they have some people really have like mind-boggling stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
I
So what did you
honestly,
have?
I had so actually, let me just bring it up on screen, because I have to remember now. But um, so the main project that I had, which is actually quite simple, it's a so one of the classic projects that you work on is your tic-tac-toe game. Okay, like
Right.
your
Hmm.
notes and crosses. I can't recall what they call it.
Sure.
Um, and there's nothing wrong with doing a tic-tac-toe game, because it's what I did. But I thought, okay, everybody does a tic-tac-toe game. it's, let's be honest, it's boring. You don't even want to look at it because it's,
Who
yeah, okay,
doesn't
tic
love
tac
tic
toe
tac
game.
toe?
Yeah, but I thought, okay, what I'm gonna do is, first of all, I'm gonna do it properly, because normally people do a tic tac toe where you're fighting against yourself. Basically, you just keep on clicking the squares, and with each click, it changes, from notes to crosses, basically. But you can't actually play against the computer, at least the ones that I have seen. Um,
Hmm.
and there again, they're just your tic tac toe. They're your notes and crosses. Like, there's nothing different from anybody else. So I thought, I'm gonna make one that is where you fight against the computer, and I'm gonna give it some kind of theme. It has to be something that nobody's done before. So I thought, it's a tic tac toe. There's two elements fighting. Okay, so you're fighting your notes and crosses, and they're fighting each other, basically. What theme can I give it that's gonna make it fun or quirky? And then it kind of popped into my head that my favorite fighting movie is Rocky Four.
Yeah.
The
Okay.
one where he fights the Soviet, no, Ivan
Right.
Drago.
Yeah. That's the best one.
Is the best one. Yeah, I love that one. I keep watching
The
that one.
first and the fourth, the two best ones, right there.
First, I agree, completely agree. First and the fourth are the best ones. And I thought, what if I just make it about, Rocky Four? And I basically named it. It's named Fight for Apollo, because obviously, he's fighting to avenge Apollo Creed,
Yeah. Yeah.
because he gets killed by the Soviet guy. And basically, I might send you the link, but yeah, it's basically, you're
That
fighting
would
on
be
this
fun.
board that has Apollo Creed as a background picture, like as a painting
Oh.
of him.
Yeah.
And instead of notes and crosses, you get Stallone's and Dolph Lundgren's faces. Their mouths open, and and when the match is over, depending on the result, so whether you won, you lost, or it's a draw, you
Yeah.
get a different model coming up on screen. So if you lost, there's a scene from the movie where Ivan Drago is like punching Rocky in the face, and he's like flying, a couple feet behind.
Right.
Um, if you win, there's the opposite. There's a scene where he's punching Ivan Drago, and if it's a draw, I put a scene from when they were shooting the movie, and they're both like on the side of the ring, just talking to the crew. Uh,
You
and
gotta send me this. I gotta see this.
I'll send it to you. I'll send you a link. Actually, I'll put it in the chat.
That sounds
And
like fun.
people liked it. And it's nothing special, but it's got personality.
Hmm.
And that's definitely one of the advice that probably I would give to people that are that are on the same journey right now, and they're looking for jobs. If you can do something that's mind-boggling, all the better. It's only going to help you. But
Sure.
if not, because obviously you're a junior and you can't exactly code the next Twitter or Spotify or you name it, it's perfectly fine to do a standard project, but make sure that you give it a personal touch.
Hmm.
Kind of, I would say it goes without saying. It shouldn't need to be said, but just try to make it yours and give it something unique. And we're all creative people at the end. You just have to squeeze your brain a little bit, and I'm sure you
Yeah.
can come up with something.
Something to
Um,
make it different,
yeah,
make it more unique.
yeah, and it
You,
doesn't have to be perfect, because mine isn't perfect, far from it. But I think there was an interview that I did with a company called, I think it's called Vonage, where the recruiter told me specifically that he showed the project to one of the programmers and it got a big thumbs up. And
nice.
that's nice to hear. And actually,
Yeah.
they were, so one of the company that wanted me to get to the next stage, and they really wanted me in. But I'd already accepted the other offer, so
Mm.
yeah, it got noticed. It got really noticed, and it got me a lot of attention. That one project.
Not to
So
knock your current company, but do you think that Vonage would have maybe paid more or been
I can tell you, without disclosing any numbers, they wouldn't have paid more.
okay?
I'm currently like paid very well, and I'm actually quite happy.
Good.
They're a bigger company, so probably they would have been, I guess, a
Might have
bit
had
of
more
more of a
benefits, maybe.
structured, yeah.
Sure, more structured.
But to be honest, having worked in big corporate companies previously, I'm really happy to be in a startup right now. I'm really enjoying it.
Hmm.
It's much more informal.
Yeah.
You just get to have a direct input on a lot of things,
Hmm.
and like you really feel like you have a kind of a stake in the
You're
company.
right. You feel like you're actually making an impact. I won't say making a difference because that sounds very like I'm changing the world,
Sure.
um, but you're working for a company where you're actually building something that's going to get used, um,
Absolutely.
and
Absolutely.
you're not like buried in meetings or buried in stand-ups or
No, 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 no. Obviously, you do have meetings and you do have some stand-ups. Obviously, you do need to like exchange informations or
hmm
sometimes get together to understand where you're gonna go from from point A to point B. But
sure.
yeah, yeah, you're not submerged in meetings that could be emails. That kind of corporate
Yeah.
situation. No, I'm really loving it. Really loving it.
And you're also kind of directing the show, I guess, when it comes to what you're building because you're the builder.
Yeah, yeah, you definitely have a strong input into what you do. It's not about people dictating to you. Obviously there's some requirements because the
hmm
product eventually needs to be used by by colleagues and other people, so they need specific
Yeah.
things.
Get input
But
and stuff.
yeah, nobody's pointing the finger at you saying, yeah, you're gonna do as I say. There's all, what do you think?
Yeah.
Maybe have a look into this and let me know what you find. Yeah, honestly, I couldn't have got a better opportunity. I'm very, very, very happy so far, and yeah, I hope I'm gonna be with them for a long time.
I almost feel like a startup would be the ultimate new developer job almost. I mean, I think there's probably some aspects of working for a larger, more established company that are beneficial, like getting, especially when it comes to maybe training. And I have heard
Sure.
some horror stories about working for some startups,
Right,
but
right.
at least maybe in my case, I think for me, I would feel like a startup would make more sense than working for a larger established company because
Sure.
I'm pretty self-directed as far as learning and
Exactly,
that kind
exactly.
of thing. The only thing I lack really is a project, but I've been told by by my last guest Drew that I need to get off my ass and build something. So
Very straightforward. Very doesn't pull any
I,
punches.
us Americans.
Oh, definitely, yeah, I know. I love Americans. That's great.
That's funny. Uh, so
Do
go
you
ahead.
have you had a developer job before, or you're going for your first one now?
I I'm kind of going for my first one. So I did a stint, a 6 month stint as a WordPress developer, which
Okay, yeah,
involved some custom CSS, HTML, and a little
sure,
JavaScript, but not much in the way of coding. I was
sure.
building um, a online store for clothing online store for a resort. That was actually a
Okay,
local job, and I live in the middle of nowhere, so
right,
finding any kind of development job here is not going to be the easiest thing in the world.
right,
So
right.
more than likely, if I or when I land something else, it'll be remote. So I'm more looking into the remote side of things. But yeah, I guess outside of that, yeah, I haven't actually landed a developer job.
Okay,
That's been my first, foray into it. And so I did that, and then I was updating their website. And then the um, the pandemic. I was trying to think of the best way to describe it. The coof hit, and
yeah.
they actually closed down for a while.
Ah, shoot.
So the online store, which also had a physical location, pretty much all just closed down. I checked the other day to see if the website was still up, and it's not. And the thing of it is like I didn't just build that. I designed the branding, the logos. I was redoing all that stuff for
The,
the
the full
resort.
package, basically. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I like doing logos and I like designing branding.
I
Um,
remember. I think you do pixel art as well, don't you?
yeah, yeah. Some kind
Yeah,
of
I
an artist,
remember
I
seeing
guess.
some things. Yeah,
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 I've done a lot of sketching and drawing. And then I got
yeah.
into pixel art because I really kind of wanted. I still kind of want to make some games.
Me too. Me too. I was looking into it last week, I think.
Oh, okay.
Uh, yeah, yeah. I was. It. I grew up with video games. It was my first um, impact with technology. So yeah,
Sure.
I've been wanting to make something. Ever since I was a kid. Growing up with
hmm
the likes of Doom, Quake, and all those kind of old games, from id Software and
Yeah,
the greats of the golden age, so to
the good
speak.
stuff. Yeah.
The good stuff. The good stuff. Yeah. I've been looking at making like even some stupid thing with some kind of JavaScript framework. I think there's a framework called Kaboom JS.
Oh yeah, I've heard of that.
Yeah, but even maybe learning another language. I think there's Lua,
Hmm.
which is pretty good.
Yeah,
Uh,
Lua is pretty good, and there's a couple of good engines that use Lua. I'm trying to think. There's one. Man, I'd give him a shout out, but I can't remember what it is.
yeah, I
Uh,
think I knew a couple as well, but I can't
Googling.
remember right now.
There's Love 2D, which uses Lua. That's a framework. Love's pretty popular in the on the Lua
Right,
side of
right.
things. There is another one. I don't know why it's not listed in that because it uses Lua and it's a really good engine. Are you familiar with the game developer King Software? I think it's King.
King Software. I don't
They
think
made
I
Candy
am.
Crush.
Candy Crush, you mean?
Yeah, you familiar with that? Candy Crush
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Saga, whatever.
Yes.
Uh, yeah. So they built that, and they've built a lot of games. But they have a game. Oh, I just remembered. It's called Defold. Um,
Default.
yeah,
Okay.
Defold. Um, and that's a really really solid game engine. It uses Lua for scripting. It's a 2D game engine. I don't think it's 3D. I think it's straight up 2D.
So kind of you can make something like a nice platform, like a scroller, something
Yeah,
like
or
that. So yeah,
you can make any kind of like side scroller or anything that's kind of 2D,
yeah, yeah,
top
yeah,
down or
yeah.
what's that other kind of I can't remember what it's called. Anyway, yeah, it's a really nice engine. So if you're looking for Lua, that might be a good way to go. And it's not a framework, so it's a full on engine. So you can drag your assets in and design your levels and
Sure. That sounds
so
really interesting. It's gonna be a lot of work, definitely.
yeah, yeah. And there's also some like if you don't want to do the actual code, which seems kind of pointless to a programmer to not use the code.
Right. Yeah, but
There's-
that's like the whole point of it.
yeah, yeah. There's here, I'll put this in here for you. Um oh, it didn't link.
Right. It's
Oh well.
default.com.
Yeah. You can check that out.
Yep,
Um
yep.
there's a
Uh,
JavaScript one called Phaser. Are you familiar with that?
oh yeah, Phaser. Yes, yes,
Phaser
yes.
is
Phaser.
the big JavaScript game framework.
I
Lots of
actually bought a Udemy course for it, which is probably gonna be just lying there for who knows
yeah,
how long.
because that's what happens to Udemy
Because
courses.
that's why you buy a Udemy course. That's the whole point. So
They just chill. Eventually you'll get to them.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, and then yeah, in a
how
different
many
way.
Udemy courses have you actually finished?
God, you're going for the tough questions now.
Yeah, you know it. We're
You
down
want to
to
be
the
like that?
wire.
All right. I think out of the over 100 that I have in my archive,
Holy.
maybe a couple. But it's not like I haven't done any of the other
Sure.
ones. But it's
Yeah.
like the good thing about
Parts.
Udemy is that it got chapters, so you can say, okay,
Hmm.
I'm really interested in this right now. It applies to what I'm doing,
Right.
whereas this doesn't really. So there's no point for me in learning it and then forgetting it a week later.
Yeah, it's
Uh,
not necessarily about just completion. If you learned what you
exactly. Yeah.
needed. I actually
Yeah.
my my first Udemy course was a complete developer course by Rob Percival.
Okay. I think I heard the name. Yeah.
Yeah, he's in the UK.
Yeah.
He's got a thing now where he's trying to build a platform for certification for programmers.
Right. Right.
Um, and so I think that's mainly what he's been working on. But back in 2016 or 17, whenever I started learning to code, um, that was one of like the few big, learn web development courses on
Yeah.
Udemy. So I started there.
Right.
I've actually got, I think I have 3 accounts right now. Um,
What, 3 Udemy accounts?
yeah,
Wow.
because one of the things I learned, and one of the things me and Drew talked about on my last episode was uh, how Udemy has all these sales,
Sure.
and
Yeah.
sometimes they're not running a sale on your existing account. You know, you can't even get a
Ah.
code, coupon code for it. So if you make a fresh account with a fresh email, they automatically give you a discount. So usually
Okay.
like
That's a good tip.
yeah, 12.99 or 13.99 or something like that. Um, and so like he said he had 6 accounts, and I was like, oh, he's figured it out.
Wow. Bit over the top, but I
He's
can
got
see
it
why.
figured out. Yeah. um,
Something like that.
I've got 3, and I think maybe only 2 of them have courses on them. My main one's
Okay.
got like 30 some, and
That's
my
still pretty acceptable.
yeah, I
Definitely
guess
bigger.
I'd be interested in hearing um more of my guests tell me their Udemy number. In fact, I think I'm going to make that a standard question to ask. What's your Udemy number?
That's interesting.
Um,
Yeah, it's your Udemy number that defines you really at the end of the day.
this is how we're going to rate you.
Pretty much. I should put it in my Twitter bio probably.
Yeah, yeah. That's funny. Hashtag Udemy number.
Yeah.
Oh
Uh,
man, that's funny. So what kind of games do you like?
so these days, it's mainly FPSs, and
Okay.
mainly retro FPSs. So
Oh, okay.
I don't know if you heard games like Dusk. Um,
Dusk.
Dusk,
Hmm.
beautiful retro. I mean, it's retro shooter, but really only because of the graphical engine. It's like an updated Quake engine,
Oh, I see it.
but it's
Okay.
beautiful. It's got its own aesthetic, its own atmosphere. It was written by this guy called David
Mm-hmm.
Simanki or Zimanki. I'm not sure how to pronounce his name. And then I just finished
Hmm.
another one, beautiful, called. So I don't know how to pronounce it because it's a Czech word,
Yeah.
but it's Hrot, as in Hroth, and it's this
Roth. Okay.
FPS set in the 80s in a Czechoslovakia, I think, um,
Hmm.
under Soviet regime.
Okay. Hroth.
Hrot, that's it.
Oh, okay.
It's on Steam.
Okay. Yeah, I was trying
Uh,
to look it up.
Beautiful. They have 2 episodes out now. They're working on the third one, but you definitely
Hmm.
have to play the first 2 if you love FPSs.
Oh,
Um,
cool.
I used to be a lot into RPGs as well,
Oh
but
yeah,
I just don't have that time anymore.
I think I saw this actually. It looks good.
Pretty good. Really,
Definitely
really
looks.
recommend it.
It looks like Half Life a bit.
Yeah,
A
it kind
bit.
of, yeah. It's
That's
I
kind
would
of.
say it's
Although I can
not as
see.
cinematic,
Yeah,
but
I can see. I mean, I guess I would say it looks closer to the original Half Life.
probably,
than
yeah. Graphically, definitely, yeah.
yeah,
From
graphically
the
it's. But
from
then
the
like
era, yeah,
the blood and stuff is pixels, like squares.
yeah. Yeah. But
And the
but it's great. It's
explosions.
full of quirks, full of
Yeah.
personality. It's really good level design as well, which isn't very common.
Huh. Yeah, that actually looks like fun. I might
Yeah,
have to.
yeah. It is.
Might check that one out.
Yeah.
I'm all about some retro games. I play a lot of retro platformers or just platformers in general.
Okay.
Um, I played Hollow Knight, of course, because you got to play Hollow Knight if you haven't.
Sure.
Um, and there's another game on that isn't released yet, but I've been playing the beta um, called Ghost Song.
Ghost Song. Is that on Steam?
Yes, Ghost Song. I believe. Yeah, it's on Steam. You should take a look at that game. It's releasing this year. Um, it's a one man job. He's an artist apparently,
Oh wow.
and
Always awestruck by those ones.
yeah, this game looks freaking amazing.
Oh, interesting. It
Uh,
looks like a bit like you remember Metroid?
yeah, it's kind of a love letter to Metroid. Honestly, the first
Okay.
he's been working on this game. I've been following it probably since shoot 2017, maybe. I might be wrong.
Oh.
There's a there he's this current iteration is built in Unity. Yeah, Unity.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well,
But prior to that, it was built on Stencil.
Stencil. Okay.
Stencil. I think it was Stencil. Yeah, Stencil Game Engine. Let me pull it up.
It looks really, really, really good. There's kind of a cartoonish bit element to it, but done in the right way.
Yeah, exactly. Here, I'll post the engine if you want to have a look. It's I
Yeah.
think it's JavaScript based, but it's a it. I'll call it a no code, but it's more like they're logic blocks, kind of like Scratch.
Ah, yeah, yeah. Scratch.
Yeah, so he was building it in that, and
Wow.
the art style obviously was a good bit different.
Sure. Sure.
And when he first swapped to Unity, like, I mean, it was kind of a big blow to the engine, just because, I mean, it's such a, it was kind of a big deal. Um,
Sure.
but
Oh yeah.
I think his art style is a lot nicer now. It took a little bit to adjust because everybody was like, "Oh, we loved your old art style," but he's able to do so much more with Unity. Being able to deform um, sprites and things like that without
Sure.
having to redraw things.
Sure.
Like,
Yeah. It's pretty mature engine.
yeah, like you can draw, or like you can make a figure look like it's breathing without having to redraw it. You don't have to redraw frames and make the
Yeah.
frames look that way. And you can obviously break art down and attach it to bones and things like that, so you can animate easier.
Just
I
saves
think
you a lot of time.
yeah, it saved him a lot of time because he was drawing all that stuff by hand. So
Yeah.
that game looks phenomenal.
Looks
That's
really good.
definitely
Yeah.
yeah, that's pretty high on my list. Um, there's a
Okay.
couple of there's a couple of games by oh, where are these guys at? Are they? They're not. I don't know if they're in the Czech Republic. I'm trying to think of the name of the game now. I've got it on my Steam. I just don't have it on. I don't have
Right.
my Steam open. Um, but they're more like I call them like Zelda esque games, I
Okay.
guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like the old school Zelda,
Yeah.
like not quite top down. Um, oh, now I'm trying to
Sort
find
of
it.
RPG-ish.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very much RPG ish. Or kind of like I guess they're sort of like Metroidvanias, but not really. You're not totally locked out. Like the whole thing about Metroid is that you would get locked from
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah.
moving to an area. You have to get an ability and to move.
Yeah. And then go back basically, and then you can access it. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. Man, why can't I remember that name of that
And
game?
I love RPGs, and I used to play them all the time. But the only issue I have now is that they take a lot of time normally.
Yeah, yeah.
It's the kind I remember playing some JRPGs, kind of the Japanese ones,
hmm
and it normally would take you stuff like 60 hours, 70 hours. Like there's no way I can devote that kind of time to them now.
Yeah, that's kind of why I guess I play them in spurts. In
Yeah,
fact,
sure.
most games now I kind of play in spurts. Um I don't really play straight through. I generally don't sit and play through a game, you know, dump hundreds of hours into a game. I just
Yeah, yeah, no, definitely not.
like I'll get started on a game and I'll play, if it's probably the last game that I played a ton of was Breath of the Wild.
Sure, sure, sure.
But I was working in Texas in the oil field and I literally had nothing else to do because I was in the
Downtime.
middle of, yeah, I was in the middle of nowhere. So I dumped a bunch of hours into that, and then when I got home, my son deleted my save. Uh,
That's what children are for.
yes, exactly. Uh, and so I haven't I've been playing it a little bit here and there, but I haven't really I'm not really trying to beat it at this point. I'm just playing, kill a little time, just in between bouts of programming mainly.
Yeah, not nothing too demanding. Nothing too
Yeah,
demanding.
I feel guilty when I'm not programming.
I know. I know the feeling.
I'm like, oh,
But you
I
need
should
your
be working.
downtime. You do need
Yeah,
some downtime. step away from the laptop or the screen and just like just do other stuff. Being going to the gym or even just going for a walk.
Hmm.
Uh,
Yeah,
yeah,
it's really easy to burn out,
very,
especially when you're trying to push yourself and you're focused on like getting a job. And I think burnout's probably one of the biggest killers of dreams of getting a programming job for a lot of people.
very much so, very much so. Particularly when you get stuck in that rut where you just keep applying and applying and the opportunity never comes. Like, I fully understand people that they kind of get over the edge and they just get frustrated and they say, yeah, fuck it.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, I just found one of those games I was trying to tell you about. Let me copy it and I'll throw it in the links. Um, there we go.
Resolution.
I was gonna do some pixel art for their second game, but my right when they were finishing up, my one of my brothers passed, and so I wound up pretty busy with that kind of stuff
Right, right.
um, and didn't do it. But they're from where are they from? Monolith of Minds, Germany. They're in Germany.
That's interesting.
I think they're in
Continental
Germany.
Europe. Yeah.
Tech 13. Oh, that's
Tech
their
13
publisher.
Interactive.
They're they're
It does
they're
say Tech 13 Interactive is one of Germany's leading
yeah.
developers.
It's
Yeah.
Monolith of Minds is the actual game developer. Wonder why it's going to their publisher page and not the game developer. That's
Oh,
weird.
interesting.
Oh, look, of Minds. Oh yeah, here we go. Oh yeah, they are German. So
Cool. Interesting. Yeah, Germany.
yeah. So I talked to them on Discord a good bit. They're really cool. They've got a second game that's related to their first that just launched on Steam and Switch and Epic Games.
Right. Oh yeah, that a lot of these indie companies, probably not just the indie ones, they all have Discords nowadays. You can basically
Mm-hmm.
just it. I mean, I
Oh
guess it's the internet, but it's so different.
yeah. I mean, I think it's a lot easier to find an audience now for things.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
I think in the old days it was maybe it was a good bit harder. You had to find this way you can gather them all in one place
Yeah, 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 yeah.
and then let them all know when something's launching.
Yep,
um,
yeah.
and it's yeah,
Interesting.
it's a lot better of a
Monolith Minds. That's two people,
yeah, two guys. Yeah,
two guys.
yeah. One guy does the programming and the other guy does the art.
The art. I love that.
Yeah. Trying to think. What are they? Oh, they're working with uh what is that engine? Go Godot Godot
Godot. Okay.
Godot Godot.
It's Godot. That would be like. I
Godot.
think it's the
Yeah,
French way.
Godot. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Waiting for Godot, right?
Waiting. Yep. Samuel Beckett. Absolutely.
Yeah, they're working with that engine. So I've kind of looked at that. It's the scripting on that's kind of Python style.
Okay. Yeah. So the Python syntax.
Right, yeah, Python
No
syntax.
brackets. No sort of.
Yeah, it I don't know. I'm not the biggest fan of Python, but I mean, it's a good language. It's a good first language because it's simple, it's pretty readable.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess. Yeah. I'm definitely not an expert. I've used it a little bit to like build some very simple things.
Hmm.
Definitely like the syntax, but I haven't even started exploring the the nuances of the language.
Sure, yeah.
Um,
Well, I think we are about finished. We've
okay.
reached the hour and 13 mark.
Gee, that went by quickly.
It really did. That went by super fast. Um,
Cool.
so, are you working on anything that you want to pimp while you're on here, or?
Man, not really. Unfortunately, I had to put all my personal projects aside because I just don't have time at the moment. The only thing I'm working on is to getting my next AWS certification. So I'm working on the solutions architect associate right now.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm still I've only just started studying. I think I won't be taking the exam until I think at the very least to January next year. There's
I
quite a lot
gotcha.
of stuff to go through.
Yeah.
So
Did
yeah,
you mention that helped? I think you said that helped you get your first job. Is that right?
100%, 100%. I think it was one of the main reason I got it. And what I've noticed again, just before we stop, but
Hmm.
I've noticed that a lot of the junior developers job ads that I'm seeing around
Yeah.
all feature some kind of cloud skills required.
Hmm. Right.
Nothing too extensive, but they all ask you for the very basics of either AWS or Microsoft Azure. And I remember this not being the case like just last year. There definitely weren't as many, whereas now I'm seeing it in every job ad. So it's probably something that people want to invest in if they're aiming for their first job. I think it will definitely help you. It's an
Can
excellent
you
chat.
can you tell me, like, is there a cost involved in that, or like
There
I've
is
been
a
getting emails for training now from Amazon, like offering me
right,
training.
yeah. So there is a cost in taking the exam. Um, I can't quite recall what the cloud practitioner the price was. It wasn't. I think it was $100,
Okay.
and the solutions architect associate is 150. You can find trainings online for free. Even if
Hmm.
you go on YouTube, there's plenty. Um, there's some free training on the AWS skill builder section of the website as well. They've even created this online RPG game called the Cloud Quest, where
Oh.
you can basically play the game and you're moving around this city and you speak to these characters who all have some kind of business problem, and you then have to build these solutions into a sandbox environment where you can practice the skills. It's really cool, completely free. I did buy a few trainings because I really wanted to do things the proper way and just get the practical skills in. There's a course by a guy called, I think, Adam Cantrill or Alan Cantrill. Alan Cantrill. Yeah, I think he's a Australian. Probably the best course I've seen online for AWS. It goes incredibly in depth. It's much longer than the average. Let me just put it as a link.
Yeah, post it.
Uh,
I'll put it on the show notes
yeah,
for
not very
anybody looking.
expensive. I think it's like, I don't know, 50 quid or 30 quid. Not very
Yeah,
expensive, but
that's
it's
not bad.
incredibly in depth, very in depth. If you do even just that one course, by the end of it, you're all set to take the exam. And then, if you want, you can take some exam packages like on Udemy. They're like mock exams that you can take just to make practice with the type of questions. There's quite a few around. Like even if you just Google them, there's plenty. There's another guy called Neil Davis. Yeah, he's got a platform called Digital Cloud Training. I'm gonna link that to you as well. I took one from him too. He's got plenty of mock exams, and I did those ones several times. So by the time I got to do the cloud practitioner exams, I basically knew it, off the top of my head.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and didn't spend a lot. It was like I think 50 quid altogether,
Sure.
but definitely worth the investment if you're like looking to land that first job.
What's a quid?
What's the what?
I said, what's a quid?
A quid. Oh God, I'm getting
I'm just,
Britishized
I'm
at
teasing.
one
It's
of my
totally
yeah.
fine.
A quid is pounds. Is pounds.
Pounds.
So
Okay. All right.
yeah,
I can figure that one out.
quid. Yeah. Oh
I think
jeez.
your pounds are still worth more than a dollar at this point, but not
Yeah. I
by
don't know for
much.
how long, but yeah, I'll enjoy it while it lasts.
Yeah, really, man. All right,
Oh,
buddy.
God.
Well, I'm
All right.
gonna go ahead and stop here.
Yep. Okay.
All right, man. Hey, thanks for talking to me today. I appreciate it.
Thanks for
It was a
having me.
lot of
My
fun.
pleasure. My pleasure.
We'll see you.
All right. Take care, mate.
You too.
Bye.
You've been listening to episode 3 of the Citizen Coder podcast. If you'd like to follow Antonio, you can hit him up on Twitter. Link is in the show notes. Links to the video games and game engines mentioned are also in the show notes. You can follow me on Twitter, LinkedIn, or YouTube. And as always, I'll see you next time.